Rain pins the courthouse to the night, and the verdict is still in my mouth when the doors spit me into camera flashes and questions I don't answer. Guilty on all counts. I hold my spine like a blade and walk, because shaking is for after. I put him behind bars. The city cheers like that means safety. My driver asks if I want the radio. I say no and watch my reflection ride the river in the window, hair slicked, lipstick gone. I think of file boxes in my office and promise myself sleep. My phone vibrates with an unknown number. I answer anyway. Klein. Congratulations, he says, and the car shrinks around his voice. Matteo De Luca. Smooth, amused, the temperature of a blade left in snow. You were magnificent. You shouldn't have this number. You gave it to me during discovery. You wanted to talk me into saving myself. A soft laugh. You almost did. You're calling from prison? Not for long. Silence breathes between us. Somewhere a door closes. I picture a corridor, a camera, a man refusing to be a verdict. If this is intimidation... If I wanted to intimidate you, he says, low, I'd be in your living room. The line goes dead. By the time I reach my building, the rain has turned to needles. The elevator takes a year. My apartment smells like coffee and something that isn't mine. The security light blinks green. I lock the door anyway. I pour wine because ritual is my religion. The first sip is a lie. 3 knocks. Not a neighbor. Not delivered. 3. Measured. I look through the peephole and see nothing. The hall light is out. Don't open it, I tell myself, and open it 2 inches. He fills the gap with shadow and rain. Matted coat, wet hair, eyes that read rooms. No cuffs. You're supposed to be in chains, I say. Your faith in the system is almost cute. His mouth curves. May I come in? No. He steps over the threshold anyway, slow enough to prove he could have done it fast. Cedar and cordite move past me. He closes the door softly. You have 30 seconds, I say. Make them expensive. You're in danger, he says. Not because of me. Because of men who pay salaries to keep things orderly when their profit depends on chaos. I put you in prison because you put bodies in the ground. Correction, he says. I accepted that the ground keeps hunger better than promises. You built a case. Now they want you dead for making them choose between money and myth. I move toward the kitchen because knives live there. He watches my hands. Leave, I tell him. Or I scream. You won't, he says. You'll calculate. Proximity to threats versus time to police response versus whether they'll arrive with the wrong loyalties. I hate him for being right. How did you get out? He smiles with everything but his mouth. People imagine cells keep wolves inside. They don't understand who feeds the wolves. You still can't be here. I'm here because they're already coming. He nods toward the window. Headlights slide across the wall. Pause, stutter. 2 quick, 1 long. Contractors who think they're invisible. That could be anyone. It could, he says, and the glass blossoms into needles and the room breathes smoke. He moves before I think. His hand hits my shoulder, and the world drops. We are behind the couch, my cheek to the rug, his body a shield. Shots stitch the room. Plaster blooms dust. My heart tries to flee. He is impossibly calm. Exhale, he says. On the breath, not between. I hate you, I whisper. He almost smiles. That's 1 word for it. He returns fire. 2, 3, precise and patient. Outside brakes squeal, then the hollow metal of retreat. Quiet follows. Sirens begin somewhere. He stands, offering his hand like we're at a gala. I ignore it and get up. You brought this to my door, I say, shaking. I postponed them, he says. 5 minutes you didn't have. Spend them yelling or use them to leave alive. Where would we even go? A place that owes me favors and hates attention. He looks at the wreckage. Pack nothing. I can't just disappear. You can, he says gently. You just don't like what it says about the person you think you are. The fire alarm wails. I grab my phone, my bar card, a sweater, and the photograph no one knows I keep. He watches me. Ready? No, I say and move anyway. The hall smells like wet carpet and panic. The elevator is a coffin with mirrors. We take the stairs. He keeps 1 step behind and 1 to the side. We hit the alley. Rain, steam, a dark sedan with its lights off. He pulls me close enough to hear his heartbeat where my panic should be. Left, he says. You're ordering me? I'm asking you to let me be useful. I notice the second vehicle, parked wrong, with water beating on a hood that hasn't been there long. The shape in the passenger seat lowers a radio. They're not police, I say. Now you're seeing, he answers. Stay behind me. He walks out with his hands visible. The window hums down 2 inches. A man in a cap smiles like we're a tip he doesn't have to share. Evening, counselor. We can give you a ride. I already have one, I say. Not the kind you need. His eyes tilt to Mateo. We'll take him. No, you won't, Mateo says, and the night takes a breath. Something in me locks, the part that knows when truth is a weapon and when a man is. I step where his shoulder leaves space and meet the cap's smile with nothing. Do you want to live, counselor? Mateo asks without looking at me. That's a stupid question. Good, he says, and the alley erupts again. Thunder answers with iron. Rain and muzzle flashes stitch the alley into a strobe, and I move because standing still feels like consent to die. Mateo angles in front of me, one arm at my waist, the other steady with the pistol like it's an extra breath. The cap in the sedan fires first. Mateo answers twice, and the windshield spiders into glitter. The car jerks. The passenger drops to the ground. The driver slams the reverse and peels into the street. Exit, he says, chin at the far end. We run. Water leaps from potholes. An alarm joins the chorus. I slip. He catches me. Correction, not comfort. You okay? Ask me when I stop hearing my blood. Later, he says, and kicks a service door. It opens on the second try to a stairwell that smells like bleach and fried onions. We take 3 flights down to a loading dock where a black coupe waits under a dead light. Stolen? Borrowed from someone who'll never report it. He opens my door. You're still free to hate me. I'm busy surviving you. I slide in. He drives with a calm that should be illegal. The city blurs into rain and amber lights, then into warehouses and bridges. I look back once. No headlights tailing. Either we lost them or I've forgotten how to trust my neck. I need to tell my office, I say. You need to be alive to do that. My friend. Text a code only she understands. 2 words that don't fit. I type, warm snow. Dots appear, vanish, return, then a reply. Wrong season. What happens now? Now I introduce you to a place that doesn't exist. He cuts into a lane by the river and kills the lights. A steel door yawns at a knock pattern I don't ask about. Inside, the air is cold and honest. Concrete, metal, a hum of servers. A woman with scarred knuckles looks me over, decides I'm necessary, and nods us through. 2 hours, maybe less, Mateo tells her. Burn the cams on exit. She tosses him a towel and a medical kit. You're bleeding. It's borrowed. He hands me the kit. Play doctor. I prosecute them, I say. But I'm already guiding him to the stainless table, peeling his ruined shirt. Catching the hitch he hides when gauze touches a groove of fire along his ribs. How many scars? I ask. 4, I remember. 3, I don't. He watches my hands like I'm drawing maps. You? None that show. I tape him closed. Warm skin, muscle coiled like intent. He notices. They'll use you to hurt me because hurting me in court didn't work. That isn't romance. It's logistics, he says. Romance is what I refuse to call the reason I haven't put you on a plane. His eyes hold mine. Stay where I can stop the bullets. You don't get to own my choices. I'm not trying to own them. He lowers his voice. I'm trying to keep them available. The woman brings clothes that smell like detergent and smoke. I change in a side room slick with shadow in my pulse. When I return, he's cleaned up, dark shirt, damp hair. He pours coffee into a chipped mug and sets it in my hand. Drink. You always order people? Only when I want them alive. He sips from the same mug because there's only one. The place where his mouth was becomes a sentence I can't unread. Who sent them? I ask. Men who monetize order. Names later. First we move. Where? A cabin in the pines. Walls, heat, the lie of safety. He pockets a drive. The woman kills the hall lights in reply to his knock. Back in the car, the city gives way to the road to dark water, and the dark water to trees bending as if in prayer for better weather. The wipers count sins. I watch his hands and hate the part of me that relaxes because they know where to go. Why me? I ask. You looked at me and saw a man, not a myth. I saw a defendant. You saw both, he says. And you didn't blink. A beat. Also, you taste like trouble. Focus on the road. He does. When he glances at me, it hits like an impact. The air warms. Impossible. We reach the cabin when the rain thins to a whisper. Stone and steel and pines. Windows dark. Generator ticking like a heart. Inside. Clean lines, blankets, the utilitarian kindness of someone who planned for the worst. Phone, he says. Airplane mode. On the table. I comply because it's easier than arguing and because I'm suddenly tired. He builds a fire with the ease of a man who has learned to appreciate warmth. We sit with our legs not quite touching each other. The flames write secrets on the ceiling. Tell me you're not alone, I say. I have responsibilities, he says. Missing is for people who get to stop. He studies me. You? I have a best friend who weaponizes honesty. And a city I keep trying to love. And me? Soft. You are the exception I didn't consent to. He nods. Silence becomes a third person. He reaches for my hand and stops a centimeter away. I close the distance, palm to palm, and something unclenches. You shouldn't, I say. I know, he says. His mouth finds mine with the care of a man who understands scarcity. It isn't a collision. It's a promise we'll regret and repeat. Heat replaces weather. My body remembers what it pretended not to feel. We break because breath requires it. Stay until morning, he whispers. We move at first light. A sensor chirps once, politely, and the cabin inhales. He's on his feet before the second chirp. How many? I ask. Enough to regret it, he says, and kills the fire with a boot. Headlights bloom between the pines. Too slow for strangers. Too sure for luck. Someone knocks 3 times, measured, like a man who thinks doors are suggestions. The knock repeats, heavier this time, and everything inside me remembers the sound from my apartment, the measured rhythm of men who expect obedience. Mateo signals silence with 2 fingers and moves toward the window, slipping the curtain just enough to see the reflection of headlights slicing through trees. 1 vehicle, 2 men. Then 3 more shapes ghosted between the pines. He mouths, back door. I grab my phone and the small silver drive on the table. He shakes his head once. Leave it, he whispers. They can trace it. We move through the kitchen. The floorboards groan once under my bare feet, and the sound feels like a confession. Outside, night breathes fog. The cold stings but steadies me. Mateo's hand lands on my shoulder, guiding without gentleness. We follow the creek. Noise covers us. How do they keep finding us? They don't lose what they own, he says. A branch snaps behind us. Instinct wins over dignity. I drop and crawl behind a fallen tree. Mateo's pistol arcs up, sighting shadows that grow human. The first man steps into the clearing, flashlight beam carving the dark. Mateo fires once, the sound small and final. 2 more shots answered, too high to hit. Run, he orders. We sprint, the forest a blur of silver and black. Roots grab ankles. Branches tear sleeves. Somewhere a voice calls, alive, followed by a curse and another shot. The creek swallows us, water to our knees, current cold enough to steal language. At the bend, we duck beneath an old culvert. Metal rings against rock, echoing each breath. I press my palm to Mateo's chest to hush him. His heartbeat thunders under my skin. He covers my hand with his. Don't, I whisper. They'll hear. They already know where to aim. The flashlight beams swing past, white coins in mist. One pauses on the water, tracking. Mateo mouths a count, 1, 2, 3, and rises to fire. The shot snaps light in silence. Splashing follows. A grunt. Then nothing. We stay hidden until the forest exhales again. When we crawl out, he's bleeding from the shoulder, dark spreading through the fabric. Keep pressure, I say, tearing my sleeve. He laughs quietly. You sound like you've done this before. I cross-examined worse wounds. He winces, breath catching. You should leave me. Stop auditioning for martyrdom. I tie the makeshift bandage tighter. You still owe me answers. We reach a dirt road, breathless. The cabin burns behind us, a smear of orange between the trees. That's your safe house, I say. Insurance policy, he replies. Fire erases ownership. A truck's headlights approach from the curve. too steady to be hunters. He raises the pistol until the driver leans out, a woman, cigarette glowing. "You're late," she says to Mateo. "She's clean," he answers. The woman squints at me. "Lawyer?" "Former," I manage. "Cute." She jerks her head toward the passenger side. Get in before someone decides to double tap. The ride is wordless at first. Pine and diesel fill the air. Mateo leans his head back, eyes closed, breathing shallow. The woman drives like she owns the night. "You make a lot of noise for ghosts," she mutters. "They followed the leak," Mateo says. "Our friend Rourke sold my location to the same people he hired to kill her." I flinch. "Rourke? My supervisor Rourke?" Mateo opens one eye. "Deputy State's Attorney Rourke. The man who built his career cleaning after the men I put in cages. He wanted both of us gone for different reasons. And now he wants to erase his investment." The truck slows at a bridge. Below, a warehouse squats on the riverbank, windows boarded, one light burning like a tired eye. "This isn't hiding," I say. "It's suicide." "It's leverage," he answers. He thinks we're prey. We'll show him teeth. Inside, the warehouse smells of metal and oil. Mateo collapses onto a crate. I fetch water from a rusted tap. The wound is deeper than I thought. When I peel the fabric back, he hisses through his teeth. "Hold still," I say. "I'm holding memories, not stillness. Don't talk." Talking's how I survive. I clean the blood and find myself shaking. He watches, quiet now, gaze tracing my face like he's memorizing the parts the world never let him touch. "Why didn't you run when you had the chance?" he asks. "Because I wanted the truth," I say. "And because part of me didn't believe you'd really come back." His lips twitch. "You still don't. You're bleeding on my shoes. Then stop standing so close." I can't. Something breaks in the air between us. His hand slides along my wrist, fingers rough, cautious. I don't pull away. The pulse that runs through that small bridge of skin feels louder than the rain on the roof. He leans in, slow, eyes asking questions he's too proud to speak. I answer with a breath that turns into a kiss. Brief, reckless, inevitable. The taste of him is smoke and iron. The aftermath of violence turned human. When we part, the world reasserts itself. Rain, sirens far off. The whir of machines that don't care who wins. He smiles like a man remembering something he shouldn't have lost. "This doesn't change anything," I say. "It changes everything," he murmurs. "You just don't see it yet." I stand, needing space that doesn't exist. "You said Rourke sold you out. Why tell me now?" "Because you were next." "Next for what?" "Reassignment to the morgue," he says flat. "He signed a contract. Your death wipes his trail. Mine keeps it profitable." I sit beside him, shock giving way to purpose. "Then we find proof." He grins through pain. "Now you sound like me." Don't insult me. Outside, the storm quiets as if the world is listening. Inside, his head tips back against the wall, and exhaustion drags his lashes low. I wrap his jacket tighter around his shoulder. For a long moment, I just watch the rise and fall of his chest, counting the breaths we both borrowed. When the first light touches the river, he opens his eyes. "We go to the city," he says. "What for?" "To return the favor." He stands, bleeding and unbroken, and offers me his hand. "You wanted the truth. Time to prosecute it." I take it because refusing would mean pretending I don't want to see how deep this goes. The warehouse door groans open. Morning waits, gray and merciless. We reach the city just after dawn. Fog drapes the skyline like gauze, muting the glass and steel into a gray confession. Mateo drives with one hand, the other pressed to his shoulder, blood dried into the seam of his sleeve. "You need a hospital," I tell him. They'd call Rourke before they called a nurse. Then a doctor who doesn't ask questions. "I already owe those," he says. We keep moving until we make a choice they can't unmake. He parks in a structure that smells of dust and diesel. From the trunk he pulls a black case, thin, heavy, familiar. He opens it on the hood. A laptop, a drive, 3 envelopes, and a revolver that looks older than either of us. "What is all this?" "Options," he says. "One burns the city, one buries it, one saves us." He holds up the drive. "Rourke's network. Everyone he paid, everyone who paid him. Copies hidden across servers that need a single key. And you have it. Not yet. It's in the hands of a man who wants me dead but wants his money more. Then let's buy it. He looks at me as if I've just offered to jump into fire. You're serious. I prosecuted men who thought they were untouchable. Money always talks. Sometimes it screams. We find the broker in an old hotel near the river. Top floor, no elevator. Matteo knocks once, a pattern of patience. The door opens on a man who looks expensive in the wrong decade. DeLuca, he says, smiling with too many teeth. And company. I've heard stories. She's the story, Matteo says. I'm just the punctuation. The man gestures to a table. Sit. Let's discuss the price of your redemption. He places a single USB key between us like a holy relic. $500,000 wire transfer, no trace. You know how it works. Matteo leans forward, calm. You'll get your money. But first you'll tell me who else made offers. The broker chuckles. Everyone with something to lose. His eyes flick to me. Especially your new friend's boss. I feel the words land somewhere behind my ribs. Rourke paid you? He paid everyone, the man says. Including me, to keep you both dancing until he cleaned the rest. Matteo stands so fast, the chair cries against the tile. Then we're done here, the man shrugs. Take the key, take your chances. Matteo reaches for it. The man draws a gun. I'm already moving. Reflex, courtroom timing turned physical. The chair topples into his knees. Matteo's elbow hits his wrist. The shot goes into plaster. The key skitters across the floor. I dive for it. Outside, sirens start their distant wail. Or maybe it's just memory. Matteo hauls the man up by his collar. Who told you we were coming? Rourke, he gasps. He said to stall you until his people got here. Matteo glances at the window. They're early. 3 black SUVs slide to a stop below, doors spilling men. We're leaving, he says. The fire escape is rusted and swaying in the wind. I clutch the key as he leads us down flight after flight until our boots hit the alley. Shouts echo from above. Cars 2 blocks, he says. Left, we run. The city hasn't woken yet. Only garbage trucks and ghosts. Matteo's shoulder leaks again, leaving breadcrumbs of crimson. He doesn't slow. At the car, he throws me the keys. Drive, I don't argue. The engine roars. We cut through empty streets until the river widens and the bridge rises ahead. In the mirror, lights follow, closer, hungrier. Tell me you have a plan, I say. I have a destination. Where? He smiles, blood drying at the corner of his mouth. Where the law still pretends to be pure. City Hall? He nods. Rourke built his empire inside it. We'll make him choke on transparency. Traffic thickens as we near downtown. Morning commuters. Unaware they're driving through a battlefield. Matteo wipes his face, smears red into the pale dawn. You still trust me? He asks. I stopped thinking trust was a yes or no question. That's a dangerous answer. So is everything about you. He laughs once, short and genuine. Then let's make it worth the danger. We park near a fountain and blend into the stream of people. Inside, City Hall hums with fluorescent indifference. I flash a bar card at security. No one checks the date. We take the stairs to the 4th floor, records division. Matteo's hand brushes mine only once, deliberately. After this, there's no undoing it, he says. There never was. He plugs the key into a terminal. Lines of code spill like confessions. My name flashes among case files, buried notes, doctored evidence, forged signatures. Rourke's fingerprints on every stain. Copy it all. I whisper. He does. The monitor flickers, screen bleeding light. Uploading to mirrored servers. Once it hits public record, it can't be killed. The door bursts open. Rourke stands there, flanked by 2 armed officers who once saluted me in hallways. Avery, he says, smooth as ever. Step away from that machine. I straighten. You forged warrants, laundered evidence, and ordered assassinations. His smile doesn't move. You sound righteous. That always worried me about you. He nods to the officers. Remove them. Matteo moves first. A blur, a disarm, a struggle. One officer drops. The other hesitates, recognizing me. Do it. Rourke screams. The shot rings. It's not Matteo's gun. Rourke stumbles, looks down, sees red spreading like disbelief. The hesitant officer lowers his weapon, eyes wide. You were going to kill her, he says. Rourke collapses. The building alarms erupt. Mateo grabs my wrist. We have to go. The upload completes. I yank the drive and slip it into my pocket. It's done. Outside, sirens spiral closer. I can taste the city changing in the air. We stop at the fountain again, lungs burning, water catching morning light like fragments of something holy. Mateo laughs softly. We just committed truth. I look at him. The man I destroyed, the man who saved me, the man who might still damn me. What now? I ask. He wipes a smear of blood from his lip and smiles, quiet and real. Now we see what survives it. The sun breaks the horizon, turning the water to gold. Somewhere behind us, the world learns its own corruption, and for a heartbeat, standing there with him, I believe survival might look like redemption. We don't run far. The fountain's spray turns to mist on my lips, and around us the city begins to notice its own alarms. People pause when they sense a storm changing direction. Mateo touches my elbow as an apology, and we slide under an arcade, the marble cool as a breath. Are you hurt? I ask. Only in the places that keep me honest, he says, eyes reading doorways and windows that could become rifles. You? My hands won't stop shaking. They will. In a mirrored column, we catch our reflections, 2 silhouettes, wet, unholy, alive. I think of the upload, the mirror copies. The officer who lowered his weapon because conscience beat command by half a second. It worked. It started, he says. Working takes time. Sirens braid into one long artery of noise. A helicopter chops the air. I taste fear and coffee, and something like hope. He steers us through a glass door into a lobby for elevators and a janitor who doesn't look up. We ride to the roof. The wind lifts my hair and the city opens. Guilty. You could walk away, he says, and pretend the devil didn't help me do one good thing. I step closer. No. The word sits between us, small and heavy. He takes my hand. Skin to skin feels like accuracy. You need pressure on that shoulder. You need food. We laugh. The wind eats it. He kisses my knuckles and pulls a phone that pretends to be dumb while remembering everything. Calder, he says when the secure line catches. Your officer shot the right man. Upload is live. Freeze contracts. Open vaults. Calder answers with clipped orders and a warning. The building is locking down. They know I was there. We'll make a statement, I say. We'll make a disappearing act, he counters. Truth is loud. Survival is quiet. I'm not hiding. You're moving, he says. There's a difference. We climb down service stairs and cut through a cafeteria that smells like yesterday's onions. Outside, rain returns, soft. Barricades and uniforms bloom. I walk like I belong to the hour. Avery Klein. A reporter's voice snaps the air. Microphones pivot. Lenses find my face. I stop. Did you conspire with a criminal to hack municipal files? I conspired with a man to keep me breathing long enough to do my job, I say. The files were the city's. We gave them back. And the shooting upstairs? Ask the man who aimed at a witness. I feel Mateo at my shoulder. A boom rolls. Doors. Boots. Mateo squeezes my hand once. Enough. They'll swallow you and call it due process. We cut into a side street that smells of yeast and old newsprint. A shuttered bakery opens to a rap only he knows. Bruno lifts a floury hand, then sees the red on Mateo's sleeve and swears. You look worse, Bruno says. I've been better. Mateo nods at me. She's unharmed, Bruno's gaze scans. Coffee that hurts? Yes, I say, and drink something dark and saving. Mateo drops into a chair and lets me peel back the bandage. The wound has reopened. I clean it with the care of someone learning to worship soap, gauze, and breath. Tell me the part you didn't, I say. He exhales. Rourke wasn't alone. Lamar is the sleeve. The arm is older. Judges, vendors, 2 council members. One charity with a halo borrowed from dead children. How deep? Into your floor, I tape the gauze. So we go on offense. We already did. Now we make it personal. How personal? He lifts his eyes. We walk into the Inspector General's office together and dare them to pretend they didn't see. Bruno returns with a jacket for me and a look for him. You can't keep bleeding in my kitchen. I'm trying to quit, Mateo says. I shrug into the jacket. It smells of citrus and gun oil. Let's go change a city. We step back into rain that feels almost warm. Traffic stutters like power shifting in rooms no one admits exist. Mateo takes my hand in the open, an act both reckless and honest. You're not hiding this, I say. No. Why? Because fear is their language. I prefer proof. At the corner, a black sedan rolls slowly, windows tinted. The rear window lowers 2 inches. A photo slips out and flutters to the gutter. Mateo picks it up. I leaving my apartment the night everything broke. Date stamped. Time stamped. A red X across my chest. The car slides away. I don't breathe for 1 long second. Then I do. We're out of time, he says. We were never in it, I answer. We walk faster toward the building that stores confessions and call them exhibits. I feel eyes at windows, roof lines, behind wheels that never stop. The city has decided to watch. Inside the marble lobby, I take his hand again because the floor is slick and because saying it's for balance lets me lie about everything else. A guard stops us. Appointments? Emergent integrity matters, I say. Public interest. Call the deputy, he calls. Doors buzz. We step into a corridor that smells like paper and persistence. Mateo leans close, breath warm. This is the last door we walk through side by side. Don't say that. I prefer truth to promises. So do I whisper, and kiss him once in stale light. A kiss that tastes like rain, and the sin of wanting what won't survive sunlight. An alarm chirps somewhere deeper. Not loud, just enough to say the story has taken notice of us. We keep walking, hand in hand, toward the room where our names will become evidence and our choices will be made public now. The conference door opens. The first face waiting belongs to the one man I still hoped wouldn't be part of this. Rourke's mentor sits at the head of the table, smile thin as paper. Counselor Klein, Mr. DeLuca, let's discuss what you think you know. The room is too bright, the table too clean, the water too still. I take the chair with my back to the wall. Mateo angles beside me like he's seen this exact geometry end badly. The man at the head, Judge Hollis, retired, lionized, a name whispered with reverence in law schools, folds his hands and smiles like a doctor who's decided on amputation. You've made quite a mess, he says. I documented a crime. I answer. You performed a stunt, he corrects, still gentle. Uploads press a gun in a hallway. The city bleeds from vanity. Mateo's voice is smoke. The city bleeds from the men sitting at this table. Hollis's eyes slide to him. I'd be careful lecturing on civic wounds, Mr. DeLuca. Then don't make me, he says mildly. His sleeve is clean, but I know what's underneath. He keeps his injured shoulder turned away from their view. 2 others occupy the flanks. A corporate counsel with a gold tie too loud for daylight, and a woman whose notebook is already full. The deputy IG, Calder, isn't here. Neither is Shu. The absence tastes wrong. Where's Calder? I ask. Busy securing evidence you recklessly exposed, Hollis says. She asked me to triage, to determine whether you're a whistleblower or an arsonist. I can be both, I say. He smiles. You always were gifted with paradox. The woman lifts her head. We appreciate your passion, Ms. Klein, but the practical matter is the chain of custody. Your mirror nodes complicate admissibility. They preserve it, I say. Your practical matter is fear of losing face. The gold tie clears his throat. Let's speak plainly. Step away from the microphone. Turn over the key. Return what you took. What we took was corruption, I say. What you took, he says, was control. He leans forward. Kind voice. Cruel eyes. Give it back. We'll handle the cleanup. Quietly. Safely. Mateo laughs once. Low. Translation, die politely. Mr. DeLuca, Hollis says, voice tightening, your presence is anomalous. I'm the proof it isn't, Mateo replies. I let silence stretch until it thins. Judge Hollis, do you deny Rourke used Lamar Logistics as a conduit for bribes and contract fixing? Do you deny he ordered violence? He doesn't flinch. I deny that discourse belongs in this room. Then we're in the wrong one, I say, standing. The door opens. Calder enters, wind at her back, eyes like weather. Relief rises, and then stops when I see the bruise on her jaw, artfully powdered, rage barely leashed. "Hollis," she says. "Cool. Thank you for keeping our guests warm." She nods to me. "We're moving. Judges who still believe in oaths are waiting." Hollis's smile curdles. I don't recall yielding jurisdiction. "You were never in it," she says, and the room shifts a degree toward true north. We leave before the gold tie can swallow his tongue. In the corridor, Calder's voice drops. "Your upload hit. Contracts are frozen. Phones are burning. But we have a leak in the IG's office. 2 case numbers were accessed an hour ago from a secure terminal." "Which ones?" I ask. "Yours. And the one tied to the officer who shot Rourke." "They're going to erase him," I say. "They're going to erase you," she counters. "Both of you. If they get you into custody before the order's served, they'll file you under process and lose the file." Mateo's hand finds the small of my back in a gesture that says, "Keep moving." "Where?" "Judge Morales," Calder says. "He's clean, and he's ready to sign emergency protections for named witnesses and cooperating parties." "Cooperating parties," Mateo repeats, tasting the phrase like a dare. "You want her alive," Calder says. "You come with us." We take a freight elevator that smells like metal and old coffee. The doors open to a basement corridor I've walked a dozen times. Today it feels like a throat. "Morales is 3 floors up," Calder says. "We'll use the service stairs." We reach the first landing, and the stairwell door swings inward. A man steps through, suit too neat, eyes too calm. He holds a clipboard like a passport. "Ms. Klein, Deputy IG asked me to escort you." Calder doesn't blink. "No, she didn't." Her hand is already at her jacket. "Back up." He smiles and lets the clipboard drop. Underneath, a compact subgun, short barrel, suppressor, like a dark promise. Another man appears behind him, then a third. Mateo moves in the space between breath and regret. He shoves me backward, takes the first man in the throat with the heel of his hand, twists, and the subgun points at the ceiling as the suppressed cough of bullets empties into concrete. Calder fires once, then twice. The second man folds. The third reconsiders life. "Go," Mateo says. We run. The corridor telescopes into a door. The door into a courtroom foyer smelling of wax and long arguments. Morales' clerk blanches at our approach, then waves us through with shaking hands. Inside chambers, Morales rises from his desk, sleeve rolled, tie loose, eyes bright with the kind of tired that still believes. "Ms. Klein, Mr. DeLuca." He doesn't ask why the floor behind us is bleeding. He picks up his pen. "Tell me what I need to sign." Calder slaps documents down. Emergency witness protections. Preservation orders with teeth. A directive to seize the terminal used to access our files. I added a sworn statement with times, names, and the upload checksum. Mateo doesn't sit. He stands by the window, watching the street. Jaw set. "Mr. DeLuca," Morales says, pen poised. "Are you prepared to stipulate to limited cooperation in exchange for non-custodial status pending?" "No," Mateo says, turning. "I'm prepared to stipulate to total cooperation in exchange for her life." His eyes find mine, unblinking. "Everything I have. Everything I know. Maps, accounts, names. I'll testify under oath. If anyone touches her, I stop playing nice." The room goes quiet enough to hear the ink dry. Morales signs. "Done," papers crack. "You'll both get escorts to safe transport." The window blooms into cracks. Mateo is already moving, pulling me down as the second shot punches a hole in the frame. Glass rains. Morales drops behind his desk. Calder returns fire through the blinds. Outside, a car's engine idles like a patient animal. "Sniper," Mateo says. "Angels are bad for them, good for us." "Define good," I breathe. "Alive," he says, and smiles without humor. We crawl to the side door. Calder grabs the signed orders, stuffs them under her blazer like armor. "North stair," she barks. "Move." We hit the hall. 2 uniforms round the corner, weapons up. For a breath too long, nobody shoots. Then one recognizes Calder. His muzzle dips. Escort, Calder snaps. Now, they flank us. We spill into a garage that smells like rain and rubber. The details unmarked sedan sits with the engine running. The driver meets my eye, nods, and looks human. We pile in. Doors thump. The car rolls. Where are we going? I ask. Federal Building, Calder says. Bubble big enough to be noisy. We clear the ramp. The street opens like a mouth. The driver's hands go tight on the wheel. What? I ask. He doesn't answer. We pass the first light. The sedan doesn't accelerate, sir. The uniform in front says. The driver flicks the blinker on. The car drifts toward the curb. Two black SUVs ease from cross streets in a choreography that feels rehearsed. Up ahead, a garbage truck stalls across lanes like a sleeping whale. Mateo's hand closes around my knee. Warning, apology, promise. The driver exhales, a small surrender. I'm sorry, he says. Calder's gun is at his neck before the word finishes. Wrong answer, he swallows. They have my kid. Mateo's eyes slide to the mirror, then to me. Seatbelts, he says softly. Now. We click metal to metal as the world narrows to the space inside this car and the men who just closed the city around it. The SUVs draw alongside, windows a shade too dark, and the garbage truck's hazard lights begin to blink, lazy and final. We are a bead on a string, threaded between teeth. The driver's voice breaks. They told me to bring you to the river. Then take us somewhere else, I say. I can't, he whispers. They said they'd send me his hands. Mateo leans forward, voice a quiet instrument. What's his name? Evan. Evan likes pancakes? Mateo asks. The driver nods, helpless. Then you're going to keep driving until we tell you to stop, Mateo says. And when this is over, Evan gets the biggest stack in the city. How does this end? The uniform up front asks, not ready for the answer. Messy, Mateo says, eyes on me, but alive. The SUV on the right lowers its window. A man raises 2 fingers. 1, 2. The signal from the alley, the cabin, the river, the life we've been running through. The city holds its breath. Ready? Mateo whispers. I squeeze his hand. Always. The light turns green. The light turns green, and the driver hesitates a heartbeat too long. The SUVs surge, one sliding ahead to pen us, the other gliding close until I can see my face ghosted in its glass. Mateo's palm settles over mine, heat steady. Left, he says. There's a truck, the driver whispers. Exactly. Turn into it. He doesn't understand until the last second. He jerks the wheel. We cut across lanes, kiss the garbage truck's bumper, grind sparks, and pivot into a service alley that shouldn't fit us but does. The SUVs overshoot, braking late. The driver sobs once, then locks his breath like evidence. Straight, Mateo orders. Don't look back. Grit pings the chassis. The alley kinks, opens on pallets and steam, and a door painted tired blue. The first SUV fishtails behind us. The alley ends in a chain-link gate rattling in the wind. It's locked, the uniform says. Not for long. Mateo leans forward. 3, 2, now, the driver guns it. The gate pops with a scream. We burst into a loading yard scattered with dumpsters and broken light. The second SUV cuts in behind us. Ahead, an opening yawns to the river road. Go, I say. We hit the ramp fast enough to float. River to our right, warehouses to our left. The SUVs slot in again, one to the side, one behind. They won't fire while the package is moving, Mateo says. They need proof of life. And after? After they'll kill the proof and write the life as a cautionary tale. Not today. Exit up ahead, the driver says. Closed for construction. Perfect, Mateo answers. We take it. Concrete barriers loom like teeth. The SUVs hesitate, then commit. The off-ramp corkscrews into a half-built parking deck, its raw cement and echoing silence. We climb, tires screaming. On the roof, the sky opens, flat, marred by rebar and puddles. A chain blocks the far edge. We stop because there's nowhere else. The SUVs fan out. Doors open. Men flow. Hands on the wheel, Mateo tells the driver. Do not move unless I tell you. What are you doing? I ask, unbuckling. Changing the ending. He steps out into thin light, with the certainty of a man who taught himself to survive gravity. I follow. In the middle stands a face I know, Sergio Moretti, Immaculate, bored, alive. DeLuca, he says. I expected you to drown in paperwork. Paper floats, Matteo replies. You don't, Sergio smiles. Counselor Klein, you've been expensive. Send an invoice, I say. He gestures toward the windshield. He has a child. You understand leverage, my stomach knots. Matteo's hand brushes my back. An anchor. Give me the key and the girl, Sergio says. You can keep breathing until I find time to stop it. You think I brought the only copy? Matteo laughs like a blade being cleaned. We fed your sins to mirrors and buildings you don't own. Mirrors crack, Sergio says. Not before a judge reads them, I answer. Engines idle. The roof smells like rain and brake pads. You get one, Matteo says. The key or the woman, choose. Sergio considers, eyes on mine. His men shift. The side SUV noses closer to block the stairwell door. The key, he says. Matteo smiles without humor. Come take it. Time thins. Sergio steps forward with 2 men. Matteo's eyes flick to me. Ready. I nod. He slides a hand into his jacket as if for a key, and pulls a smoke canister. He snaps the pin. The roof blooms white. Shouts explode. Shots cough. Footsteps stumble. Matteo grabs my hand and runs us along the wall, counting under his breath. Left, down, 2. We hit the stairwell the SUV tried to block, slamming shoulders, prying space, and squeezing through. Concrete stairs spiral, slick with mist. A bullet pings the handrail. Keep moving, he says. Where? River. We spill out into a service corridor and onto a side street that smells of rust and rain. The driver stays on our bumper, now younger than he was when he chose. The SUVs scream from the ramp like hornets. We dart into a covered market, stalls shuttered, pigeons scattering. Matteo pulls me into the shadows and kisses me quick and fierce, a punctuation I feel in my bones. In case we get separated. We won't. We might. His forehead touches mine. Live even if I don't. No, I whisper. That's not the deal. Deals change. We cut through tarps, topple crates, and sprint past a sleeping cat. Behind us, boots, orders, the small symphony of men too sure of endings, out onto the riverwalk. Water hammers pilings. The day has the washed-out color of endings that won't be final. Boat, he says. There is no boat. There will be. He whistles low. A skiff noses from beneath the pier. The woman from the truck salutes. You owe me. I owe you twice, he says, lowering me in. To the driver, go home. Take Evan far. There's a number under your mat. Use it once. The driver nods, eyes wet. He tears away. Shots spark concrete. The woman guns the outboard. The skiff leaps. Wind becomes hands. The city recedes. Men pour onto the riverwalk. Sergio a dot framed by rage. The first shot spits water off our port side. The second smacks the motor housing. Metal screams. Hold on! The woman barks, wrenching the tiller. The skiff yaws toward a shadowed underpass where girders stack like ribs. We shoot into the dark, wake-slapping pylons. Matteo curls around me, heat and breath. You still with me? He whispers. Only completely. The motor coughs, catches, coughs again. We clear the underpass into light, and a black hole rising ahead like a judgment, cutting across our path to shear us open. Choose, the woman says. Rocks or teeth? Teeth, Matteo answers calmly. I know how to break them. The bigger boat bears down, bow throwing spite. I take his hand and squeeze until bone answers bone, and the river lifts us toward whatever ends we haven't earned yet. The bigger boat charges, black bow knifing the river, and time dilates into a thin line we have to balance. The woman throttles hard. The skiff leaps and slews, stern sliding toward the hull like a moth toward glass. Matteo shifts weight, 1 foot on the bench, 1 braced on the gunwale, hand on my waist to keep me from becoming a headline. Our wake hits the bow wave and kicks us sideways. Spray stings. The outboard coughs and screams and catches again, because stubborn things recognize each other. Now, he says, and I don't know what now means until he grabs the mooring rope with his free hand and hurls it like a lasso. It bites the larger boat's rail. The skiff tugs once, twice, then slaps alongside with a hollow thud that makes my teeth ring. He jumps first. A clean animal arc. Boots on steel, fingers on rail, and then his hand is back for me. I go because my body already chose him 2 catastrophes ago. Hands, pull, breath, metal under my palms, the smell of diesel and river and him. The woman jerks the knot with a flourish that would be applause in a kinder world, and then bails, letting the skiff spin off toward the pilings like a decoy. The black hull carries us forward, surprised to be our accomplice. Men shout behind the wheelhouse. 1 appears, then 2. I see the moment they realize their prey grew teeth. Mateo moves with that clipped economy that saved me in an alley, in a cabin, and every heartbeat since. The first man swings a length of pipe. Mateo steps inside the arc, cracks his forearm with an elbow, and shoves him into the second with momentum as a verdict. I use what the courtroom taught me: timing, angles, the power of a single sentence. A wrench lies near my foot. I kick, it flips, I catch, and when the second man lunges, I give him the cross-examination I can't file. Metal and fact. We clear the deck fast. The wheelman tries to run us aground to dislodge his problem. Mateo slips into the wheelhouse like a sin and reappears with a small, shocked smile. Unmanned, he says. Pilots are like conspirators, never around when you need them to confess. He throws the throttle to idle and takes my face in his hands, sudden and ferocious. Still with me? Always, I breathe, and kiss him like an oath I can't swear in court. He breaks first, foreheads touching. We've got 60 seconds before their friends find neutral. Then we use the seconds. I point to the bankside where a set of degraded stairs scars the retaining wall. Off there. Under the bridge, foot traffic and places to disappear. We jump again, steel to stone to steps slick with algae and history. My hands are raw. My lungs burn. Our shoes slap a rhythm the city's heart tries to match. Above, men shout. Engines rev, and plans are rewritten mid-air. We dive into a knot of tourists with umbrellas. Become weather, become noise. Under the bridge, everything echoes and is damp. He pins me to the concrete just out of sight of the railing, chest to chest, breath to breath, and I feel his heart stamp out a lesson. Alive is louder than fear. He kisses me again. Not because we have time, but because we might not later. And that's the math both of us understand. We move, hunched along the wall, emerging near a market alive now with morning, vendors pitching fruit, knives flashing at fish scales, someone shouting about peaches sweet enough to make a priest sin. The world continues despite our plot, which feels rude and anchoring at once. Calder, I say, thumbing the secure line on the burner. It clicks, stutters, and connects. We're on the Riverwalk heading north. Sergio's on water and land. Is the upload holding? It's holding, she says. Her voice is tight, words clipped. But we've got a second problem. Hollis pulled strings with a deputy who still owes him, and IG internal terminals were used to ghost delete 2 incident reports. We stopped the script mid-run. Your names were on it. How compromised? Not fatal. They'll try again. I'm calling a public hearing at noon. Rotunda. Cameras. You speak, I swear. We pin the chain in daylight. Mateo shakes his head the way a storm does. Bad idea. Bomb threat, shooters, or both. They like crowds for messes. I'll flood the place with metal detectors and the National Guard if I have to, she says. Transparency makes it harder to kill you quietly. Harder, he repeats, like he's balancing a ledger that includes body counts. Not impossible. Then bring impossible, Calder says, and hangs up like a gauntlet. We keep moving through the market. A child offers us a slice of mango on a stick. I take it with a hand that still doesn't know it's shaking and bite into the sunlight. Mateo watches my mouth like it's the first honest thing he's seen all day. You deserve breakfasts that aren't adrenaline, he says. You deserve mornings that don't require an exit plan. We are ridiculous and sincere and bleeding, and the city is trying to decide whether to protect or devour us. A man falls into step behind us, too casual. Mateo's shoulders notice, so do mine. He peels left at a stall crowded with scarves. I go right, fingers brushing silk, heart counting beats. The man splits the difference, picks me. Good. I stop, turn as if asking a price, and when he closes, I see the comms coil in his ear, the scar at his jaw, the part of his hand that doesn't tan because it's always under a trigger guard. Counselor Klein? He says, polite Midwestern. Deputy's office asked me to escort. Your radio's on channel 3, I say. Tell them to try harder. Mateo is behind him now, a quiet inevitability. He presses 2 fingers to the man's neck, finds the switch that makes bodies turn off politely, and lowers him between crates of oranges. The vendor doesn't look up. The market knows the price of attention. We duck into a narrow passage that smells of coriander and damp stone, and come out in a different street, the river now a rumor to our right. The city's arteries thicken with uniforms, their faces a mix of curiosity and fatigue. A chopper skims lower, the rotating eye of a machine trying to name us. Listen, I say, stopping him with a hand on his chest. If Calder wants noon, we give her noon. You know how to make rooms safe enough to be dangerous. We take her stage and build a story no one can cut to fit. He studies me, the part of him that calculates risk, trying to bargain with the part of him that finally believes I'm not a porcelain thing that breaks at inconvenient times. If we do this, he says, we don't get to take it back. We burned that bridge when we kissed in a cabin on fire. His mouth does that almost smile I feel everywhere. Then we make midday a knife. We need clothes that don't scream escape. The next shop is half thrift, half miracle. I pick a dark dress that says judge me on my arguments, not my hem. He finds a jacket that forgives blood and turns menace into tailored myth. The shopkeeper folds our old clothes into a bag that looks like a new one. Outside, his phone buzzes. A single text. Bring her to the river, or the boy loses fingers. A photo follows. A child's hand on a diner table, a man's ringed hand covering it. A knife poised with theatrical insult. The driver's son. Evan. Pancakes promised. Mateo's face goes stone sculpture. He shows me the screen. The world narrows to a point that could cut both ways. They'll make you trade, I say. They'll try. His voice is careful. We don't negotiate with hands. We remove knives. How? By remembering every favor I never wanted to use. He dials, says a name I won't repeat, and becomes quiet in a way that arrives with men who carry storms. You have 10 minutes to be a better human, he says to the person on the line. You know who I am and what I can do. The boy breathes, or your import line stops breathing in a week, and your brother learns what it is to be found. He listens. Photo. No blood. Now. We stand in a doorway braced by peeling posters, watching a city decide whether it will grow a backbone. 30 seconds, a minute. The reply arrives, a new photo. Boy, hands intact. A newspaper was held beside his face with today's date. Relief hits hard enough to bruise. Where? Mateo asks into the phone. He listens, hangs up, and looks at me. They moved him to a warehouse near the South Branch. My people will pull him and put him where bullets get bored. You trust them? I trust the outcome more than the promise. He pockets the phone. We still go to noon, I nod. The market noise swells and recedes like breath. He touches my cheek. You're not allowed to be brave and beautiful at the same time when I need to think. Unfair, I say. He kisses me anyway. Fast and not enough. Let's go break the city open. We head toward the rotunda by backways that only people who've needed to vanish learn. As we near the courthouse, the air changes, thicker, charged, a storm curling its fist. Barricades, cameras, and citizens with faces set to witness mode. Calder stands on a temporary dais, Mike waiting, eyes scanning for us like a metronome set to worry. When she sees us, her shoulders drop a fraction. She was beside her, a satchel clutched like a life raft. Over everything, the dome, American optimism in stone. My phone vibrates one more time. Unknown number, last chance. Pick the devil you can kiss, or the law that will bury him. Noon decides. I look at Mateo. He looks at me. We walk forward, fingers brushing, and step into light that will name us saints or sinners or something messier and more honest. We mount the dais. Microphones bloom. The crowd hushes like a living thing about to learn whether it can believe in itself. Calder leans into the mic. This city. The first thud is distant, a bass note beneath our feet. The second is closer, glass ringing like a bad memory. The third comes with a pressure wave and the sound of air rushing through a door. Screams. Smoke. Movement collapsing to instinct. Security forms a wall. Mateo's arm finds my waist and cages me in the one place where breathing still makes sense. "Eyes on me," he says. And I do. A fourth sound answers. Not an explosion. Metal tearing. A structure complaining. Shu yells something about the south vestibule. The dome groans like an old titan woken wrong. Bomb? I ask. Maybe, he says. Or they decided truth needed a different kind of ceiling. He looks to the right, then to the left, calculates 3 exits, and rejects 2. We move. Calder shouts orders that sound like survival. Sirens converge. The crowd panics in ripples that don't know where to go. We are 10 steps from the service door when a silhouette detaches from smoke, calm where everything else is rupture. Sergio. Suit immaculate, eyes bright with the kind of joy that comes from breaking a public thing. He lifts a hand and shows me a trigger. His smile says confession. His voice when it comes is almost kind. Choose. He stands with the trigger nestled in his palm like a cheap miracle, thumb grazing the plastic cap as if affection could be a weapon. Smoke turns the rotunda into weather. Somewhere a child cries sharp as glass. Somewhere a guard shouts, "Move," until the word loses meaning. I taste plaster and fear. Choose, Sergio says again, softer now, pleased. Mateo angles his body to cover mine, gaze pinwheeling through options the way he's cataloged exits in every room we've shared. To our left, the service corridor we almost reached. Ahead, Calder, braced at the mic, refusing to flinch because leadership is a stage and the city is watching. Above, hairline cracks stepping across the dome like spiders who learned math. What happens if I don't? I ask. You get rubble, grief, and a headline, he replies. Or you walk away with the devil who keeps ruining your good intentions. He means Mateo. He thinks that's the axis. He doesn't understand that the geometry has shifted. Eyes on me, Mateo murmurs. On me, not on him. His heartbeat presses into my back, steady as a metronome set to mercy. I'll draw him. You run the corridor, get Calder out, kill the feed from the panel. You'll die, I say. Later, he says, and smiles like he believes it. Sergio watches the private conversation with the indulgence of a man who trusts explosives more than people. Tick, he says, as if time can be bullied. I step forward. You want me? Here I am, he tilts his head, delighted. Avery Klein, the city's favorite blade. Bring me the key. And the mafioso walks away. Mateo's laugh is dry. He never walks away. He drifts. Bring me the key, Sergio repeats, ignoring him. Or I find out how loud marble can scream. I raise my hands, the way you do when a courtroom goes still. You don't want bodies. Bodies draw feds who don't owe you favors. I want a story, he says. Stories decide what power feels like. Give me yours. A tremor rolls through the floor. Dust rains like confetti for the cruel. Calder gestures, sharp, sending Shu to the side. He moves with the satchel as if it were a lifeline. I make a mistake. I will argue that it was a strategy. I take a step closer to Sergio. It tells the crowd who to watch. It tells every camera where the truth is standing. It tells Mateo where I need him to be. Look at me, I tell Sergio. Not at him. Me. The woman who makes your empire nervous. He smiles. You flatter yourself. You flinch, I say. He doesn't. But his thumb eases pressure on the cap a fraction. A micro-confession. Mateo moves when the micro becomes breath. He doesn't rush. He glides, flanking left, a shadow in smoke, a lesson in velocity that learned patience. He knows I'll keep talking, and I do. You used Rourke because you can't read a room without a translator. He sold you a city and delivered a neighborhood. That's why you're here with theater instead of leverage. Sergio's eyes narrow. Careful. Careful is how cowards spell alive, I say. You like spectacle, but spectacle without payoff is just a tantrum. He laughs short. Then give me my payoff. Let the civilians go, I say. I'll walk with you. Mateo's hand lands on a steel stanchion just beyond Sergio's periphery. Shu reaches the side panel and yanks a breaker. Half the lights die. A gasp rolls the room like surf. Sergio's thumb twitches. Don't, I whisper. Tick, he says again, and presses. Nothing happens. His smile flickers. He presses harder, then looks, confused, at the transmitter in his palm. as if it has betrayed him. Mateo shows him the stanchion, now lodged under a case where a cable once ran. You really should secure your receivers. Sergio's face loses its manners. He raises a pistol with the other hand, lefty smooth, and aims, not at me, but at Calder. I move before the thought finishes. My body knows the geometry of sacrifice. The bar taught me angles, but love taught me speed. I hit Calder hard enough to knock the air out of both of us as a shot rips the microphone stand into glitter. Mateo is already firing. 2 shots tight. Sergio stumbles, surprised to be mortal, then staggers toward the vestibule, bleeding arrogance. His men erupt from the smoke like afterthoughts with expensive optics. Corridor, Calder barks, voice hoarse. Shu drags her as I shove them toward the door. Security lines harden, good men and women becoming walls. The crowd thins into movement instead of panic. Sergio disappears into the south wing. Mateo looks at me once, the way a man looks at rain he's about to enter. I finish this, he says. You finish alive, I answer. He goes anyway. I follow because I don't remember how not to. The wing is a spine of marble and echo. Smoke crawls along the ceiling. Sprinklers spit in lazy arcs. Blood footprints lead like breadcrumbs. We pass a shattered display case, a fallen banner about civic pride. Sirens thread the hallway into a single taut wire. At the corner, gunfire snaps, mean and precise. Mateo yanks me behind a column as shards leap from stone. He taps my cheek once, focus, and points. 2 at 10 o'clock, 1 high. I nod. He rolls. I run low. The first man's surprise is brief and terminal. The second gets off a round that chews the wall where my hair was. Mateo handles the high like gravity does, with contempt. We push to the service vestibule. The exterior door gapes. Outside, gray noon frays into rain. Sergio limps toward a waiting sedan, hand pressed to a stomach that finally met consequence. He looks back once and finds us. His mouth shapes a word I don't catch. Maybe almost. Rain needles the steps. My mouth goes dry. If I speak, I break the spell. If I move, I decide. For one beat, everything waits. On me, I move because hesitation is a luxury for other people. The marble is slick with dust and something darker. My shoes whisper and then shout. Mateo surges, a force that learned to be precise, and I follow because my legs have a different memory than my fear. The man in the sedan pulls away. Sergio's silhouette blurs like a bad photograph. He thinks distance will heal arrogance. We hit the courtyard, and the rain makes the stone shine like something holy gone wrong. People scatter, phones aloft, faces lit by the spectacle we're making, whether we want it or not. I can see Rourke farther back, being shepherded by grim men with hands that don't flinch. He's a creature of paper, not pistols, but paper is a good cage if you stamp it correctly. Go, Mateo says into my ear, breath hot and dangerous. Find the door by the registrar. They can't lock paper underwater. I don't ask why. I run. My pulse is a metronome tuned to fury. The registrar's office is a bank of files and polite clerks who seem to want their ordinary lives back. I grab a clerk by the shoulder. She startles, then sees my face and the world snaps into focus. Lock the digital vaults. Freeze anything with the Lamar mark. Call Calder. My words are commands. She nods, as if someone had handed her a map during an earthquake, and turns it into action. The corridor narrows and opens into a stairwell where Mateo waits, lean as a promise. He slides the door shut and jams the bar in place with muscle and something I recognize as ritual. His hand finds the small of my back, steadying, grounding. Are you hurt? I ask again. Only with the parts that healed wrong. He smiles, but there's steel in it. Did you get it? The clerk is on it. They've already flagged 3 contracts. My voice sounds small in this new quiet. Then we give them something they can't burn. He drops his head, thinking like a man who tills both ash and seed. Call Calder. Tell her noon's still the best idea. Public, loud, with federal eyes. I pull the burner from my pocket like a talisman. Fingers shake. I think of Anthony and his ledger and the way death can be a punctuation that rewrites everything. Calder answers on the second ring. Voice clipped, urgent. We've got a file folder with Lamar stamps flagged across 5 servers. We're moving a SEAL team to preserve a copy. We need you in the rotunda in 20. On my way, I say. We move through halls that smell of wax and old arguments. Security personnel recognize us now. Faces are unmasked. A uniform reaches for Mateo, steps into his orbit, then shrugs because Mateo's magnetism is a law that bends men who aren't principled enough to refuse. We spill into the rotunda, and the crowd surges like a tide. Cameras find my face and hold it like proof. Calder climbs the dais, microphone already hot, and Shu stands with a satchel that looks like an offering. The rotunda feels smaller and larger at once, the world squinting at the small stage we built out of necessity. "Ms. Klein," Calder says, voice strong enough to cut glass, "we will release the sealed materials supporting claims of municipal corrupt contracts, including the Rourke-Lamar chain. These files will be made public under federal oversight. We will also request an immediate hearing into the conduct of Deputy State's Attorney Patrick Rourke." The crowd makes a sound like someone dropped a tray of silverware. Camera lights bloom like a heat map. I step forward as if led by a string I didn't know I had. "My name is Avery Klein. I am a prosecutor and a citizen. We were given the choice to look away, or to show the city what it had become. We chose to show it. The evidence will speak. We will let it." The words land and echo, and then someone screams and the world tilts. It's not an explosion. This time it's a sound like a building sighing before it breaks. Shards of glass rain down from above, and someone topples, a woman struck by falling debris. My training fights with my instinct, analyze, then act. I drop to the floor and help pull the woman out, checking for a pulse and listening for breath. Mateo's there a second later, fingers searching, finding, bandaging, cursing softly at the speed of care. "Get her to medical," Calder screams. People move like bees, efficient and dangerous. I feel the press of hands at my back. A man grabs my wrist and yanks me to my feet. An officer, face familiar, eyes frightened. "You need to come with us. Why?" I ask because the question is both legal and practical. "Orders," he says, voice thin, from the top. "Evacuate key witnesses. You can't—" The words catch like smoke. "We can," he says, firm now as a lever. "It's for your protection." Mateo's hand tightens on my elbow. "No," he says. "You either walk out in public or you don't walk out at all." The officer looks as if someone swapped his spine for a rubber band. He hesitates, then lets go. Loyalty in this city comes in gestures, not oaths. I step away from him and toward the dais, because cowardice needs sunlight to be named. A shadow moves at the edge of the crowd, and Sergeant Hollis, no, the same judge who tried to lecture us, smudged with ash, appears, breathing as if he ran. His suit is torn. His face is urgent. "They've taken Rourke," he says, words tumbling. "They moved him in a van toward the river. Moretti's boys intercepted. They're trying to get him out." My heart staggers. "You mean Sergio?" "No, Rourke," he swallows. "They want him alive to make a statement. Or to sell him. Or to prove something grotesque. Which is it?" I demand, the prosecutor and me refusing to be a passenger. "Both," he says. "Both and more." His breath fogs in the moist air. "You need to move. The van is heading south. If you want him to talk, go now." Mateo's jaw moves, thinking fast like a man mapping exits. "Shu, did we keep a live feed? Did Calder get the cam records?" Shu is there, dark and fierce. "Yes, we have a trace. They chose a route that passes by the old freight pier. They'll try to ship him out. We can intercept at Pier 14. Bring backup if you want. Feds are briefed and on the way." "No time," Mateo says. We go now. We move through the crowd like something that knows its own purpose. Cameras follow us, and the city watches the spectacle of men trying to outrun their craft. We reach the garage, the same route we've taken before, and jump into a car with Bruno at the wheel. The engine coughs and we're off, the city rolling by like a film strip. The drive is a blur of concrete, rain, and signals. Mateo's blood seeps into his collar, and I think about who stitches and who bleeds for a living. I think of Anthony's ledger and the way evidence has to be carried like a child. I think of the boy Evan and the promise of pancakes as a ransom for innocence. "What do you want?" I ask, voice thin. "To make them choose a court and not a street," he says. "To get Rourke to testify under oath that can't be bought." "And if he won't?" My question tastes of dread. "He will," he says simply, "for his life. Or he dies and the ledger speaks. Either way, we don't let him disappear into the river without names." Bruno swerves, tires kissing wet asphalt. Through the windshield, The river looks like a dark wound. Pier 14 is lit by cranes and the harsh white of work lights. 2 SUVs sit idling. Men move like shadows that know how to hide. A van backs toward a freight elevator. We stop behind a stack of crates. Bruno kills the engine. We move like ghosts, 3 figures slipping over metal like poetry. Mateo's hand holds me like a promise. I can hear my own breath, and it sounds too loud. We see Rourke then, pale, cuffed, flanked by 2 men who wear suits like armor. He looks at the river with a small man's longing for paperwork, a bureaucrat facing the cliff of consequences. Sergio steps forward from the shadows with that bored smile. "You're early," he says. Mateo answers with a step, not a shout. "Keep your hands off him." Sergio's laugh is a blade. "You think you can take him from me?" "We're not asking," Mateo says. A hand moves. Guns bloom. Night becomes a scatter of light and terror. The first shot cuts the air like a verdict. I fall, not from a bullet, but from the weight of knowing this moment is the fulcrum. I land hard, pain bright and present, and the world narrows to the grit against my cheek and the sound of Mateo shouting my name like an invocation. I push to my knees. Mateo is a storm. Every motion is precise. He shoves a man, blocks another, and then he's at Sergio, hands on his throat like justice took a more physical form. Sergio's grin muddies. His men rush. The bay explodes into noise. "Run the ledger," Mateo screams at Shu, who stands on a crate with a satchel, fingers flying across a phone like a pianist with a vendetta. "Push it to Calder. Push it now." Sue nods, face hard. Live mirror. In 5, 10, now. The sound of sirens crescendos. Down the pier, headlights blur. Federal cars, police, men with the kind of badges that used to mean something. The men from Sergio's crew see the same lights and make choices. A few retreat, tucking shame and survival into movement. Others commit like animals, deciding to die with teeth. Rourke is yelling now, breath and fury, trying to sell a story he thought he wrote alone. "I did what I had to," he shouts. "You don't understand? You understood extortion," Mateo spits. "You doctored law into a ledger of favors," Sergio lunges. Mateo answers with the kind of brutality that's been rehearsed by necessity. Steel meets skin. Hands find throats. The river watches like a judge. The first of them falls. Then the second. The pier smells like gunpowder and wet wood. Calder arrives like a presence, running, her voice full of orders that sound less like commands and more like the beginning of something with teeth. "Halt," she screams. Men freeze like cut film. A federal agent steps forward, cuffbook in hand. "Deputy Rourke, you are under arrest for conspiracy, bribery, attempted murder, and obstruction of justice." Rourke's face contorts. For a second I see something human, panic. Not of a man who fears prison, but of a man who thought the rules would keep him safe. Sergio glares at me across the chaos, and in his eyes I see a ledger burned with names and numbers. He smiles without mercy. "This isn't over." "No," Mateo says from where he stands with blood drying on his sleeve. "No, it's not." Sue yells that the mirrors are live. Every file, every ledger, every sweep of ink is now replicated and backed up. Cameras hum like a net tightening. Sirens drown our breath. Federal agents take Rourke, then Sergio, and then a handful of thugs who miscalculated their capacity to evade capture. The river gurgles as if swallowing last year's sins. I collapse to the crates, hands gripping the wood until my knuckles ache. Mateo slides down beside me, close enough that our shoulders touch. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't have to. The men who thought they owned the city are unraveling before us. The ledger is loose, the files are public, and the city, no, the machine that feeds on it, has teeth now sharper because we made them visible. Still, standing there with him, I don't feel victory. Victory is a headline. This is the thin, trembling place where we decide what to do next. He leans in, voice rough and small. "You okay?" I laugh, a sound like a broken bell. "I'm alive." Then quieter. "We did it." "We did," he echoes. His hand finds mine, fingers like rivets. Now we see who tries to rebuild on the same rot. Above us, cranes turn like slow compasses. The river moves on, carrying spent things downstream. We stand when they untangle the last cuff. The cameras focus. The city watches, and for now, It hurts to look away. The pier empties in waves, sirens receding, lights dimming, men with badges receding into forms and signatures. What stays is the ache in my palms and the weight of his shoulder against mine. We don't talk until the last SUV rolls out and the river takes back its sound. "Come with me," I say. He smiles like it hurts. "Where?" "Somewhere with doors that lock for reasons other than fear." We end up in a federal building that smells like paper and lemon cleaner. Calder shepherds us past scanners and into a room with a scarred table and a coffee machine that lies about how strong it is. Shu dumps the satchel onto the laminate and starts cataloging in a whisper. Ledgers, drive images, the phone I thought I'd lost twice, photos that will make juries hold their breath. I strip off my wet jacket and hang it on the back of a chair. Mateo doesn't sit. He leans like a man who won't give gravity an inch it didn't earn. "Brief depositions," Calder says, voice tight with triumph she won't admit. "Then protection protocols. We can get you both into safe units by morning." "Just one," Mateo says. Mateo. He doesn't look at me. I'll make my statements on record. "After that I leave." "Leave to where?" Shu asks, not hiding the hurt. "Where the people who still need me aren't on your maps," he says, and the room hears the truth it's always known. He won't belong to paperwork. I sit. "Before you disappear, you stand in a courtroom and say your name." He meets my eyes, and something complicated moves there. "My name is what you already made it. The rest is logistics." Calder slides a form in front of me. My pen moves because muscle memory is a tyrant. I recount the river, the rotunda, the stairwell, the trigger that didn't. Across from me, Mateo gives his first clean testimony, voice steady. Names come out like teeth tugged free, accounts, dates, cross streets. He doesn't glorify, he inventories. I watch him choose a version of himself that can live in light. It's almost unbearable. A knock. The door opens. The driver stands there, damp and shaking, a small boy tucked behind his legs like a prayer that has worked. The kid peeks around and sees our faces, then the table, and finally the vending machine at the back, and chooses sugar over history. He runs to it. The driver covers his face with his hands. The sound he makes cracks something old in me. Mateo moves first. He crouches and presses money into a small palm, then looks up at the father. "Take him home. Take 2 weeks. The number under your seat still works." The driver whispers. "Thank you," like it's a word he just learned. The kid watches Mateo with that unfiltered attention children save for people who confuse them in a good way. "Are you a superhero?" "No," Mateo says without missing a beat. "I'm the guy who knows people who can fix machines." We laugh because it's the only thing that doesn't cost blood right now. When they're gone, Calder nods once, softer than I've ever seen her. "Noon is back on," she says. "We'll announce the special prosecutor's appointment and unseal enough to force hands. You'll both stand with me." Mateo shakes his head. "She will." "You," Calder says, "are the reason this city is finally looking at itself." "I'm the reason it didn't sooner," he answers. "Balance it how you like." The argument dies under the shrill buzz of a phone. Shu glances down, curses. Someone tried the ghost delete again. Different terminal. We cut it, but they're panicking. Expect something ugly between now and noon. "Bomb threat," I say. "Or character assassination," Calder adds. "They can't undo evidence, so they'll try to undo you." Mateo's gaze finds mine. It says be ready without saying run. It says you can't outpace a smear, so break it before it sets. "You wanted the truth," he murmurs. "Here come the people afraid of it." We get 10 minutes in a side room with a couch that has known too many tears. I wash my hands at a sink older than my bar card and stare at my reflection. Mascara carved a bruise under each eye, hair frizzed into argument, mouth bruised, yes, because I kissed a man I once vowed to destroy. He steps in behind me, our eyes meeting in the mirror, and the room stitches itself into a confession. "You still going to walk away?" I ask. "Yes," he says. After what?" "After I make sure your enemies have fewer doors to hide behind than you have exits." He steps closer. "After I put my name under yours in a file that will outlive both of us." You're good at saying the right thing. I'm trying to say the true thing. He reaches, hesitates, doesn't touch. Do you regret any of it?
I regret not meeting you in a world that didn't require triage, I say.
But I don't regret this world meeting you. He lowers his forehead to mine. The kiss is careful, almost reverent. It tastes like coffee and rain and the fear we refuse to feed. When we part, there's the echo of what we can't have, and the relief of what we chose anyway. We are interrupted by a uniform clearing his throat. Ready for escort. We step into a hallway that hums with purpose. Elevators open. An agent cracks a joke to make space for breathing. We ride down, out into a garage where engines idle and drivers pretend not to be afraid. The convoy rolls. The city moves past like a witness who hasn't decided whether to lend a hand. We arrive at barricades and microphones. Noon sits heavy in the sky. Calder climbs the steps. The special prosecutor stands beside her, too young and exactly right. I stand where the cameras can find me. Mateo lingers in the shadow line, close enough to be my pulse. Calder starts with procedure and ends with promise. The prosecutor names charges and jurisdiction, and blessedly the words grand jury. I discuss evidence and the consequences of ignoring it. Shu reads part of Anthony's ledger. The crowd goes quiet in that peculiar way people do when math finally equals grief. Midway, my phone buzzes in my pocket. Unknown number. We're going to tell them about you and him. Every detail, every kiss, every night. Every choice you made that wasn't the law. You'll lose the bar. He'll lose his head. Walk away now. And you both get to keep something. I stare at the words and feel an old shame trying to stand. Then it sits. I slide the phone back without flinching and step to the mic. You're going to hear stories about me, I say. Some true, some made to look true. Here is the only one that matters. When the law failed to keep people safe, I chose truth over comfort. I don't apologize for the company I kept if it made your children safer walking home. The crowd inhales. Some boo, some cheer, some just listen because their bodies are tired of being lied to. Calder squeezes my arm, a pressure that says costly, necessary, both. When the conference ends, the sun has the color of verdicts, gold that wants to be pure and can't. We slip back toward cars flanked by agents who've learned to look where danger likes to hide. Mateo walks beside me like a shadow that learned to choose light. An engine coughs down the block. Wrong cadence. The air tightens. A delivery van rolls the wrong direction through security cones. The driver's cap pulled low. Agents shout. Hands go up. The van keeps coming. Mateo's arm is around my waist before the thought is finished. He pivots us behind a pillar as the van clips a barricade and slews to a halt 20 feet away. The driver lifts his head. Not a driver. A boy, shaking, eyes wide, a wire taped along his jaw and down his neck. He mouths help, as if the word is made of glass. Mateo's breath is a blade at my ear. It's a vest. Agents hesitate because the boy resembles a son, a brother, or an apprentice who hasn't learned the right lesson. Sergio's people found a new ceiling to drop on us. The van ticks, hot. The boy's hands shake as he strains against something we can't see. Don't move, I whisper. I have to, Mateo answers. He steps out from cover, hands open, voice low and steady, the one he only uses for me and for people who might die if he lies. Hey kid, what's your name? The boy sobs, a small animal sound, and the timer on his chest starts to blink. He looks at me like a child who found a survivor in a story he didn't write. The timer blinks slowly, cruelly. Mateo's voice is a hush that makes the air thinner. Kid, tell me your name. The boy's mouth opens around something like a sob and a prayer. Evan. Evan. The name catches me in the throat because it is the one I promised pancakes to earlier, like bargaining with a god. The man who drove him had begged for that same mercy, and been given the same hollow answer. Now we stand on a street with a child and a wire and men who think terror is negotiation. Evan, Mateo says, like he's testing the syllables. He crouches so their eyes meet. Skill as a weapon. Can you hear me? Evan nods, eyes wide, piecing together a world where grown men speak slowly when a child is involved. Okay, Mateo says. Listen, I'm going to take a step back. You hold still. You hear me? You do that for me. The boy nods, small and fierce. The uniformed agents tighten around the van like a pen. Calder is there, shouting orders that try to be precise. Perimeter, negotiate, bomb squad en route. Shu is on a line, fingers flying, trying to triangulate the message that set this up. Evan, I say, because talking makes me useful. We're going to get you away from this, okay? You're going to be safe. He looks at me and trusts a stranger the way kids do when the world collapses and someone offers a hand. That trust is heavy in my palm, heavy enough to make me bruise. The wire is neat and light, taped like an accessory that ended the possibility of boredom and began the calculus of dread. The boy fidgets. His foot taps a rhythm that makes my teeth ache. Mateo's eyes flick to me, then to the officers. He speaks once into his sleeve, a name. A voice answers like a ghost. I'm there, the other voice says. 10 minutes. 10 minutes is an eternity measured in beats of terror. The van's driver sobs like a man who sold his spine for bread. Calder's lips move. She's bargaining with fate and paperwork at once. Kid, Mateo whispers. I need you to look at my face, not the timer. You can do that? Evan nods. He is a small thing who now carries enormous currency. Sergio watches from the curb like a critic waiting for a curtain. He assumes time and damage are on his side. He doesn't account for the fact that we've learned to make time into shrapnel. A commotion blooms 2 blocks away, the first of the feds, running, boots a percussion. People part, eyes wild. The sound makes Sergio shift like a dog hearing thunder. He smiles because he believes thunder is still his command. Listen, Mateo says, quiet and precise. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a folded thing, an old business card, the kind with ink worn by other lives. He holds it out to Evan so the boy has something not wired to look at. Evan takes it as if it's a treasure. Mateo folds himself small and says, When I give the signal, you stand up slowly. You walk to the curb. You hold the card. You keep your hands in the air. You don't run, okay? The boy nods as if he understands performance better than he should. A noise like a fly smacking the air. A shadow moves along the buildings. The bomb squad's van shudders into place. The men in black move like themselves. Trained, terrible. The air thickens into policy and technique. We count. 1, 2, 3. Now. Mateo snaps. Evan stands, hands high, clutches the tiny card like a talisman. The officers move like a choreography practiced enough to be mercy. Men in black swarm, voices clipped, machines humming. A man with a camera on his head signals. And a dog who knows fear inches forward on a lead. The lead goes taut. The handler murmurs a command. The dog sniffs. The world compresses to the dog's nose and the boy's small, shaking shoulders. The dog circles, breath bright, then sits. The handler exhales, and the man with the camera nods in response. The van unlocks, and the agent in front moves like a careful god, hands steady. He kneels and, with a pair of implements that look both fragile and holy, he cuts tape and peels wire with method and mercy. A cheer is a small animal that breaks loose somewhere behind us. Cameras click. Sirens still a web around the block, but the immediate threat unspools like a bad memory. The boy doesn't cry. He just collapses into the driver's arms. The man's shoulders shake. The driver kisses the boy's forehead like someone who thinks the world might be real again. Sergio's face tightens. He steps back into the crowd and disappears like a stain that thinks it can blend into wallpaper. He will not be so patient for long. Calder moves in, professional and human, hugging the driver, then turning her steel eyes to us. We need statements, she says. Now, later, in a courthouse that has better plumbing. We do the paperwork, breathing the air of survivors who have to convert trauma into testimony. Shu uploads the censor's logs. The dog's handler signs a sheet. The driver gives a shaky interview that will air and will spread empathy like salt. The ledger that once trembled under Anthony's hands now sits in a federal vault with more people and more eyes than it deserves, but also more protection than we could have prayed for. Mateo sits on the curb and breathes like someone who learned to be alive in pieces. I sit beside him. His hand finds mine. The city moves like a pulse around us. Reporters orbit, hungry and clinical. Calder waves them back like a person who knows how to keep a wound from being an exhibit before it's been cleaned. You okay? I ask, though the question is ridiculous. Of course he's not. He laughs, low and honest. I'm worse, but alive. I lean into him and let the small of his back hold the ache in place. The world spins, and we keep our balance by clinging to each other like a raft. Hours blur into tasks that must be done. Depositions, interviews, oversight committees, and press briefings that smell of newsprint and adrenaline. The city feeds on spectacle but sometimes gives back, traffic opening like a mouth to let truth pass. Names are read into records. Signatures are stamped. Motions are filed in rooms with fluorescent lights and honest clerks. At night, when the world folds in small and practical ways, phones charged, files backed up, a child sleeping under a blanket that's not black with fear, I stand on the roof of the federal building and look at the river. It is a black vein threading the city like a wound that heals. The floodlights wash the water, and the cranes are silhouettes, making the horizon look like an idea someone might believe in. Mateo arrives behind me and wraps his coat around my shoulders. For a breath, we are something soft and exact. "You gave me a kid," he says, the line half joke and wholly true. "You gave him back his hands," I answer. He hums, a sound like approval. "We didn't finish everything." "No," I say. "We finished enough to see what comes next." He looks at me, slow, the way someone catalogs a map. "Will you stay?" I think of the foundation I want to build, the cases that will come, and the loopholes I'll have to stitch up like seams. I think of the bar I might lose, the kisses that will be used as weapons, the life that will be less blameless, but more awake. "Not if staying means being safe," I say. "But yes, if staying means we keep pulling threads until the whole cloak unravels." He kisses my temple, an electric benediction. "Then pull." We stand there, two people bruised and chosen, watching the river carry away the small things we buried to find the big ones. The city breathes around us, alerts, repairs, people making lunches, answering phones and doing ordinary things in the light of everything that happened. In the morning, the papers will call it a turning point. In the evenings, people will call it a cautionary tale. Both will be right. We go back inside because rubble tastes like history, and history needs witnesses. Files need witnesses. People who were bought need names, and ledgers need line items, and the city needs someone to keep asking questions when it wants to forget. Mateo squeezes my hand as we walk back to the elevators. "Come to court with me tomorrow," he says. I look at him, at the man who ruined and saved and broke and remade me, and for the first time since the verdict, I don't feel like a blade. I feel like a person who can be both a prosecutor and an accomplice to justice. "Yes," I say. "I'll be there." He smiles like a thing relieved. "Good, because I am tired of doing this without a witness." We ride down in silence, and I let the hum of cables and the smell of lemon cleaner and the small noise of other human problems be the orchestra to our choices. The courthouse waits. The ledger waits. The next motion waits. Outside, the river moves on, and the city, having seen itself naked for a moment, has to decide whether the view will change it. Morning arrives fluorescent. Calendars list storms. I hold coffee, which has forgotten how to comfort, and watch the hallway fill with people. Mateo arrives without ceremony, jacket dark, eyes clear. "You're early," I say. "I'm tired of running late to my life," he answers. We sit as in re municipal corruption echoes off wood. The special prosecutor lays exhibits and a chain. Anthony's ledger glows, numbers marching. Rourke is wheeled in, cuffed and washed out. He avoids my eyes. Sergio sits farther back, bandaged arrogance. The judge asks if I am prepared to testify. "Yes, Your Honor." Under oath, truth fits clean. I tell what we lived. The call in the car, the knocks, the cabin, the fire, the upload, the rotunda, the pier. The child wired to a future we refused to let end on asphalt. When my voice shakes, it isn't fear. It's the weight of a city asking to be forgiven by the people it fed to wolves. Then Mateo takes the stand. He says his name like a verdict and breaks it open into something human. Not confession, inventory, Accounts, routes, nights he traded quiet sins to keep louder ones from taking children. No justification, no myth. He tells the jury he should have walked away sooner, that failing to do so cost strangers their safety. Cross-examination means: did you love the prosecutor? Did you leverage intimacy? Did you orchestrate a spectacle to save yourself? He absorbs it with stillness, having learned to negotiate with men who own knives. I leveraged my life, he says. The spectacle was your city waking up. By afternoon, the judge orders protective custody for the driver and his son, freezes Lamar's contracts, and sets a timetable that will make the old guard choke. In the corridor, the light is unflattering. Mateo moves beside me. I want to say stay. I want to say we can be ordinary. Ordinary is a language I never learned. What now? I ask. Now I go, he says, gentle and absolute. Before I become a story that eclipses the one that matters. I can't prosecute and love you in public, I say. You can love me in the world we made possible, he answers. Which means loving me somewhere else. Where will you be? Moving. Learning is not necessary. I didn't make you good, I say. I made you honest. You made me want honest, he says. We walk to a side exit where a marshal pretends not to hear goodbye. Outside, the river is still and benign. He takes my face in his hands, like he's cataloging evidence. He kisses me slowly, carefully, finally. Live, Avery, he says. Make them earn every lie. If they come for you, call the number under your desk blotter and tell the voice I said you outrank anyone holding a gun. You left a number under my blotter? Months ago. You arrogant. Efficient, he says, and steps back. He walks away without looking over his shoulder. I let him. Love is letting the person you want choose a future that doesn't shrink to fit you. He turns the corner and becomes an unresolved cord I carry into every room that asks for silence. Weeks fold into a season. Calder's office grows teeth. The prosecutor convenes a grand jury that takes attendance from ghosts and living men. The driver brings Evan to the Foundation's open house. He eats pancakes and asks if dogs get medals. We hang a ribbon of honesty. I swap court for building something slower and relentless. A clinic for whistleblowers. A fund for families who outlived crimes and need rent more than headlines. I teach interns to distinguish between a leak and a lifeline. At night, I still dream of knock patterns, smoke, and a hand closing on mine to say not yet. Sometimes envelopes arrive. No return address, a Polaroid of a coastline, a market, a train stitched to snow. No words, just proof that a man can become incremental versions of better and survive it. I slide them under the glass on my desk like wards. On the verdict's anniversary, I stand at the railing where the city asked me to be a blade. Morning lifts off the water. A courier leaves a small box and disappears. Inside, a key. A note, 6 words. Choose the life you saved. Use it. I know the lock. A storage unit at the edge of town that once held contingency plans. Inside, what the city will need when memory tires. Copies of ledgers, maps, a list of names who still think influence is weather, not a contract with witnesses. On top, a passport with my photo and a name I don't recognize. Because he knows I won't use it unless the world forgets how to count, I don't cry. I place the file in a safe that needs 2 signatures and an oath. Then I return to the office, where a young attorney waits with a case involving a contractor billing for a school that has never laid a brick. We drink bad coffee and write motions that sound like stubbornness. We file them. We wait. At dusk, I walk the river and say his name once under the bridge that kept us alive. If he comes back, the city will be ready for a man who has learned to be unnecessary. If he doesn't, the city will still be ready, because that was the point all along. I go home to windows that face east and a bed that forgives insomnia. In the morning, I wake, make coffee, and begin again. Not because it's clean, but because it's right. Because truth learned to breathe here, even when it needs me to count. The river moves. The city tries. I'm the lawyer who put a mafia boss behind bars, who fell for a man who refused to be only what the city named him, who chose the messy version of justice over the myth of purity. And I am not done.